Hello, Tom Lavecchia here with a special edition of the Armchair NBA. I saw this video. I had to invite him on. We got Santiago Zubillaga on the show. Santiago, welcome to the Armchair NBA. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tom. I just wanted to say I'm a huge fan of your channel. I've been a big fan of your channel going all the way back to the old show you had. So it's really an honor to be with you. And I'm looking forward to unpack these top 10 mob quotes. So looking
Love
forward
it.
to it.
Love it. And he called me Tommy Suitcases. So for those that have been around to the early days, that is an early nickname. So we're going to be discussing the top 10 comments made by mobsters to the media publicly, and of course, doing a little unpacking. So let me share the screen. Okay, we're going to jump right in. So we're going to put a link. We don't want to take too much away from the video. We're going to kind of go through it without sound, but we're going to kind of talk about each one. And then we obviously encourage you to watch the video and subscribe to Santiago's channel. Okay, so first, why did you do the video? The mob and the media top 10 greatest quotes on video. What inspired you to do it?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting because, with the mob being a secret society, there's very little known about these people. They rarely talk. I mean, you've never heard even John Gotti, who was known to talk to the media, he never
Yeah,
sat down for a sit-down interview. Like
correct.
it was just it's sound bites. You don't like really get to know about their actual sort of the way they are, their presence and the way they interact with people. So I thought this was kind of a cool way to kind of showcase some memorable quotes said by mobsters throughout the years. Um, a lot of them are funny. So it's a more lighter video than my previous video. I don't know if you saw it. I did a video on Jackie D'Amico.
Yes, I did.
Um,
Excellent.
yes, yes, yes. And I kind of talk about how I kind of see him as sort of the bridge between the Gotti regime and the Sicilian faction of the Gambino family. Um, and so that's more of like a theory, based analysis kind of thing. This is more of sort of a lighthearted, fun video. So I thought it could be enjoyable for the people to watch, and I'm
I like
honored
it.
to be here. Yeah.
All right, so let's start it. So the first one, obviously, you're showing some different B-roll there. Carlo Gambino, uh, what's his name, Tony Accardo. But the first out of the gate, where is it? Is actually number 10 is Anthony Spilatro. And of course, shout out to RJ Roger. I thought that was pretty cool. Very nice move. So number 10 is Tony Spilatro. So what's the quote that he said? Let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. He was walking out of a court appearance. This was probably one of his many cases. I know he had many legal troubles. And he basically told the reporter, you guys got to cut it out. I'm warning you. You could take it as a threat or you could take it as just a playful remark, but definitely a guy with a very violent reputation. So somebody
Yeah,
who,
what's interesting about that, though, there is some history. There is some history of the mafia killing journalists and people in the media. Specifically, I know Vito. I know this goes way back, but Vito Genovese did a favor for what was his name, Mussolini, and killed a journalist who was kind of getting on him here. And I know that's old school. I know there's maybe not as many modern cases, but you know what? If you're a journalist and you get threatened by a guy named Spilatro, and you know as dangerous he is, you obviously have to pay it some heed. Okay, of course. What is a list like this without John Gotti? What was and he has a few good one-liner and zingers. Which one did you use for this one?
this one I used, he's telling John Miller, who would often cover him, WNBC guy. He basically tells him, what does he tell him? He tells him,
Let's take a look. Hold on, they got it up.
behave yourself. Better behave yourself.
Why don't you
Why don't
behave?
you just behave yourself? And he goes, I'm behaving myself. And he goes, you're not behaving yourself. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, but here's the thing: though, the media is a double-edged sword, especially when it comes to the mob. Um, in terms of and again, listen, I mean, we can push and pull on this, and a whole do probably its own show. But Gotti and the media, I kind of feel like on one end, if it's a secret society, it's the worst thing you can do, right? But on the
yeah.
other end, I feel like, and we could talk about this at another time, is I felt like his media strategy might also been a form of protection. How the hell do you kill John Gotti or even approach him or do anything to him in a dastardly way when there's cameras and media in front of you. So I don't know. I just always been like kind of working theory. Was that why he
Yeah,
did what he did? I don't know. What do you think, Santiago?
I wouldn't say it was a deliberate sort of attempt, but I think it definitely shielded him from potential assassinations. I mean, as we know, many people in his inner circle, Frank DeCicco, Bobby Borriello, Eddie Lino,
Yeah,
were assassinated in retaliation for killing Paul Castellano.
yeah,
So Gotti, and they weren't the top major targets.
yeah.
Gotti was a major target, and
Correct.
nobody got to him.
Yeah,
And it could be the fact that you got the media covering, you got the FBI,
yeah.
recording in front of the Ravenite, all this stuff, all the surveillance. It could have shielded him from potential murder.
Exactly. This one I like. Okay. So number
Yeah.
8, walk us through that. Number
Yeah.
8.
So
Yeah,
this
this is
is
great.
Thali De Laurentiis, the alleged boss of the Chicago outfit, basically telling Channel 2, a local news affiliate, basically telling them, get out of here, Channel 2, just yelling at them, ripping into them. Um, yeah.
And
Then,
he's allegedly the current sitting boss, correct?
yep,
Allegedly.
yes. I mean, that's, I believe the FBI and the local police in Chicago have him as the boss. I think, I mean, Chicago's a whole different animal, as you know. So I
Yeah.
think whatever, I think it's more of a Tony Accardo. If he is, I think it's in a more of a Tony Accardo, elder statesman, sort of
Yeah.
like figurehead, final decision guy. But I
Yeah.
doubt he's, I don't think he's the day-to-day guy.
Got
That's
it.
not what the people are saying. But
Now this one is a legend. Viniasaro gets
Niasara, yeah.
acquitted. For Lufthansa. What did he wind up saying?
Well, he said there's many, but he said two ones. He says they said, "What do you think about the government's case?" One of the media reporters asked him, and he said, "Believe me, believe me, you don't want to know, honey," or something like that. He had this way. He's way with he's got his arms around his two female lawyers. He's kind of dominating the frame and kind of making jokes, and it's just a funny dynamic. And then he had the audacity to say, after he got acquitted for a case that the FBI and the federal government have been eager to solve, that the largest cash robbery committed on American soil ever,
Yep.
goes in and he says, "Hey Sam, don't let them see the body in the trunk."
Which is it is absolutely excellent. Um,
Yeah,
I didn't know much about Vinny Asaro until I read the Lufthansa Heist by Anthony Di
right.
Stefano. I had Anthony on the podcast. Tony, great guy. Um, totally encourage that book. It's kind of a little bit of a raw look and unfiltered look. That's why I like Tony Di Stefano's work. Back to John Gotti for number 6. This may be one of my favorites.
Yeah. He says the government asked do you think they asked him, do you think the government's going to frame you? He's, I believe, walking out of his house, and he says, "You guys and Giuliani should be in church." Um,
That's just excellent. Walking out of his house. I mean, just really think about that. Right? You're a young guy, but I think you understand the depth and gravity of a Cosa Nostra boss and like kind of media tripod set up outside the house. I mean, that's pretty insane. Even for a young guy like yourself, that's got to be pretty insane. No.
no, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's and to just for the whole thing is funny. Him telling a media guy and Giuliani, "You guys should be in church." It's just the whole dynamic. It's funny.
The
Um,
irony. This one I love. This one, the Sicilian accent. Uh,
oh, this one's great. This one's
Stanfa.
great. Yeah. He, Stanfa was trying to cover the mob, and he was doing this whole segment. He went to go speak to
Geraldo was covering the mob. You mean
yeah,
Geraldo? Yeah.
yeah. Geraldo Rivera went to go speak to John Stanfa, and he's like, "Get out of here, get out of my face." And this one, I know you mentioned, the Vito Genovese and the journalists and all this. This
Yeah.
one, Stanfa actually ordered a hit on Rivera. Never
Wow.
got carried out, never got, never happened. But, this is from, the words of Gaetano Tommy Horsehead Scafidi, who was one of the major players in the Merlino Stanfa War in the 90s, who's said to be an effective witness, basically said that Stanfa tasked Merlino with Stanfa tasked Scafidi with taking care of the order of killing Rivera, which is unprecedented. I think that
Yeah.
I think that I'm sure he had, with the backing of the Gambinos and in New York and all of that, I don't know if they'd really let him take out a journalist, but
Who knows? With
who
Stanford
knows?
was a crazy guy.
Yeah,
Cut out your
definitely.
tongue and mail it to his wife. Um,
Yeah, wild guy.
that war fascinates me. I just think he did like
Oh
everything
yeah,
wrong. He had the
yeah,
backing by the Gambinos when Bruno got hit. He went on the lam. Obviously, he knew about it. I think he was a driver, and then he ended up being at a like a one of the Gambino brothers, pizzerias in like Maryland or something. So he had literally the Gambinos themselves backing them, the company, the Gambino family, obviously in New York, and he had very close ties to Sicily. His uncle
yeah. Some
escaped
say he was made in
in Italy.
Sicily.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and his uncle was a big shot, and forgive me, it's escaping me. Put in the comments if you guys
yeah.
know who it is. But I don't know how I couldn't squash out like 8 to 10 local guys, but maybe it just shows
Yeah,
you
it's weird. It's weird with all his sort of old school Sicilian values. He had like this crew of guys that were like John Veazey and people like that who were these wild guys killing everyone, doing all this stuff. I did think it was ironic though, and I don't want to get too off topic,
yeah,
but it was sort of an ironic dynamic because you had this very sort of cultural generation and ethnic sort of battle between the Merlino faction, the Young Turks, and Stanfa. And reportedly the Merlino guys were calling this guy a greaseball and he has no business in here. And I get like, yeah, you're from Philadelphia, he isn't, but it is a Sicilian organization at the end of the day.
correct.
And I mean, you're basically forgetting that your ancestors all came from the same place.
Hated
What?
himself. That's what's crazy. He did
Yeah.
himself. He was from the other side. He was bred, and then I think I think BC was made. Correct.
Yeah, VC was made. Yeah.
That's crazy. And
Yeah.
look what happened. All right, number 4. This is a good one. Scarfo. You can't have a list without Scarfo.
Yeah, I know this is great. Classic. Thank God for the American jury system after he got acquitted on the 1979 murder of Vincent Falcone. Yeah, no, this is a classic one, obviously. We would later learn, as I mentioned in the video, that he was actually guilty of this video. And then I cut to this clip, guilty of this murder. I cut
Yeah.
to this clip of Phil Leonetti in disguise getting interviewed.
I love
And
this, by the way.
he's like, the guy is telling him, well, you got away with murder, right? And he's like,
Yeah,
well, they didn't have enough evidence, He's like, and the guy's like, he's looking at him and he's like, okay, we did get away with murder.
I absolutely
It's
love
just, it's a very eerie thing, that he's all like,
it.
thank God for the American jury system. They're all so happy. They got away with murder. It's quite something, but yeah.
And the funny thing is, the wig. That's something I'll never get over.
Yeah.
All right, this is a good one. Number 3. This is
Oh, this one's great.
Toko, right?
This is Tony Giacalone.
Oh, Jack Coloni. Forgive me, Jack Coloni. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Longtime street boss of the Toco's a Really Crime family in Detroit. It's probably the most recognized figure out of in Detroit just because of his connection to Jimmy Hoffa and the Hoffa murder. He's getting in. This is the only time I've ever heard him speak. He's walking out of the court probably, and they're saying the FBI says you guys are big players in the mafia, and he says your father is. And it's just it's great. It's great. It's
See,
great.
like you say so much without saying so much. The
Oh
fact
yeah,
that
no,
like
it's
you even able to get 10, quotes of mobsters and aggregate them. Again, I'll put a link below. Make sure you subscribe to Santiago's channel. Again, what is it? The John Gotti Passion or whatever it's called in
yeah.
Italy. Joey Molino obviously has some zingers. Walk us through number
Oh
2.
yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of great ones from Merlino. Like I mentioned this video, there's one where he's asked about a Dave Schratweiser actually asks him
Yeah,
about Dave Schratweiser right there
yeah.
asks him about a alleged $500,000 bounty on his head, and he says, give me the 500,000 and I'll shoot myself. He also, when he got acquitted of like 5 murders, a bunch of murders he beat in 2001. He got convicted of like racketeering and other stuff, but he beat the serious charges, and he goes, ain't bad, better than the death penalty. That one was great too.
That was
But I
awesome.
don't have the clips for those, unfortunately. But one that always cracks me up, as I mentioned in this video, is that you have him, this is after he did 11 or so years in prison for that major 2001 racketeering case.
Yeah.
And he's back in federal court for a probation violation. This is 2014. And a female reporter is like, um, she asks him, the U.S. attorney in Philadelphia says you're still an active member of the mob. And he goes, the guy's mental. He just called like he calls the U.S. attorney in Philadelphia mental. It's just
What is that?
it's
Funny.
classic. It's classic Joey Merlino.
All right.
It's yeah,
So this is a tough list because obviously you want to go from 10 to 1
yeah.
and whether no particular order or you meant it. This deserves to be number 1. This might be the best. Like I can watch this 1,000 times. So walk us through the well-deserved number 1.
Yeah. We got Tony Salerno, former front boss of the Genovese crime family. The guy they thought was really the number one guy, the number one target in the commission case.
Yep.
This is him coming out of court. And they're like, you got something to say, Tony? And he's like, go fuck yourself.
Which is great.
Um, and yeah, it's just classic. As I said, it's exactly what you'd expect from just looking at an old, fat mob boss chomping on a cigar. It's like it's very stereotypical. It's like what you think you would hear,
Yeah.
but it's just like it's delivered great. So
And
that was
something where like it's like go F yourself. Sorry, Tony. Or thank
oh
and
yeah,
like
no, no,
thank
no,
you or
no. He
something.
goes, thank you. Yeah. He goes, thank you. And then it's like, and it might like it's like, oh, maybe I respect him a little bit, like he answered my question, and he's honest. So thank you.
I love it. We're gonna put this is a quick one. We're gonna put a link below.
Yeah.
Santiago, what are you, a journalist? What's your background? I probably should have brought this up
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, no. So I'm a young guy. I'm 20 years old actually.
God
So
bless.
little background on me. Grew up in New York.
Yeah.
My parents are from Venezuela actually.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I now live in Madrid in Spain. We moved
Oh wow.
yeah. So we're we're but at least it's not too late, so time differences work out perfectly. So
What's your I did not a full show, but I commented on it. What's your take on why so many Italian mafiosi hang out in Spain and the Spain countryside as a getaway? Do you have a theory on that?
I'm not it's interesting, even though I live here, I'm not super well versed in, Italian,
Got it.
Italian organized crime, Cosa Nostra, 'Ndrangheta,
Yeah.
those organizations. But I think I think it's a similar climate, similar sort of,
Yeah.
type of place to Italy, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Southern Europe, um,
Closer language, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
cultural sort of stuff. So I think it's a similar environment could be. There's a lot of influence. There's a lot of Spanish and Italian overlap.
Yeah.
Different last names, things like that. The Kingdom of the Two Sicilies.
Yep.
When you had mainland southern Italy, and
Yep.
Sicily used to be part of under the purview of the Spanish Empire. So there's a lot of overlap, cultural similarities, Catholicism, things like that.
What about and you may or may not know this, but Venezuela obviously had gangsters in it.
Oh yeah,
Those
yeah,
the
yeah,
Caruana Contreras, even the Gambinos to some
yeah.
extent. However, not a known indigenous family to Venezuela, just kind of like Argentina. And I find that fascinating. Why do you think possibly there is not an indigenous Venezuelan Italian mafia, as far as you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually, that's something I've looked into more recently that I didn't know really much about
Yeah,
until I started when I was doing some research on when I was talking for the video on Jackie D'Amico. I get into all these players, guys on 18th Avenue, the Frankie Callies, the
yeah,
John Gambinos, all these types, and I did see that when John Gambino fled,
yep,
they said that his plan was to go to a ranch he owned in the state of Barinas in
yep.
Venezuela.
That's
He
right.
owned a ranch there, and he was going to flee with his brother Joe. But they were found. They were in Fort Lauderdale and captured there. I believe on like a treadmill or something.
Yeah. People look it up. Yeah, they it kind of
Yeah.
interesting story around that. Well, listen, check out Santiago's video below. Also subscribe to his channel. Santiago, I'll have you give the last words before we conclude.
Tom, really an honor to be with you. I think you're a really great voice for this genre. I think you offer a very unique sort of business perspective that other people don't offer. So it's really an honor as someone who's interviewed Pablo Escobar's wife,
Yep,
the son of Totorina,
that's right.
made Sammy Gravano, all these major players that way bigger names than me. It's really an honor, and I really respect that you gave me this shot and allowed me to come on your show. So it's really an honor.
I said this before, and I'll say it again. It's not about how big or small you are. I like to chat with people that I find interesting. Santiago is going places. So thank you so much for being on the Armchair MBA, my friend.
Thank you so much.